Hello everyone and welcome back to this next lecture. So in the previous lecture we had created this contract and we saw how simple it is, and the reason why it is so simple is because we are inheriting the ERC20 contract from Open Zeppelin. So ERC20 from Open Zeppelin is doing all the heavy lifting for us. This way we don't have to do much, right? All we have to do is call the mint method in order to create a certain number of tokens and assign it to a particular address who is the initial founder. So let's come over here and start with our compilation. So we'll do the usual compile it, and it was successful. Then we'll come over here and we can deploy it. So let's come over here and see what all we need to deploy. Now there are several arguments. We never had so many arguments before, but now we do. So first we must give it a name. So now this name can be anything, right? This could be like the way you like the company, name of the company that creates a particular stock, like Tesla, like IBM, like Microsoft, like all these, Amazon, so on and so forth. These are the name of the companies, right? It could even be something like Amazon Incorporated or Microsoft Incorporated, so on and so forth, right? So that is the name of the coin, the name of the stock. Here it is the name of the token. Then comes a symbol. The symbol is simply a unique symbol that you would like to use to identify that particular token, right? So again, like Tesla stocks could be something like TSL, or Microsoft could be something like MSX, right? This is how you will actually find and look for these stocks on different stock markets, right? Different exchanges. So what I'm going to do, I will just create a coin and let me call this crazy token, right? Anything you want. It doesn't have to be one. It can be anything, just a string. And let's call this CTZ or CZT. That sounds better, right? Now the founder. The founder is this, you can say the initial, if it is a corporation, it is the initial director who starts this company. So we can usually use the account number 1 and paste it here. Now the total supply. Now the total supply can be totally up to you, right? So for example, for typically, like if you're looking at most kind of tokens, you would say something like 1 million or 50 million or something of that sort, right? Like for example, when you create a corporation, you issue a certain number of shares to begin with. And that can be something like 500,000 or 1 million or so on and so forth, right? This is just some large number that you can later play with, because you now have to divide this up into investors. Similarly, in the case of a token, you are going to ask people to buy this token, and therefore you should be able to give them a significant number. You don't want to start with something like 50 or 100, right? So let me start with something like 1 million. So this is 3 and 2 more, right? So I'm creating 1 million tokens. So let me come over here, deploy it, and you'll see that it was successful. Come down here, you'll see we now have our own token. So you can come over here and play around with it. So let's say you should click on name, call, this is our token, crazy token, right? We created a token. You can call the symbol and you have CZT. Now the fun starts. We call the total supply and you get 1 million because that's the number of tokens I've created. Again, totally arbitrary number, right? Totally arbitrary number. How you want to think about it is totally up to you. It's just like starting a company. Now, let's come over here and do something little more interesting. Let's now query the balance off. So if I take balance off and I query this particular account, I will get 1 million. The reason is this is the founding account to which all the tokens were assigned to begin with. And for that, I can just take address 2 and come over here and repeat it. So I'm just going to delete this and paste it here, and you see it is 0. So this way you can actually query any account and find out the balance of that particular account. So now that we've done this, that is a basic getter methods, let's now try to do some transfer. So for example, let's say this account number 1 has taken a co-founder. So this is now a co-founder. So this, let's say, is the CEO, this is the CTO, and they are both co-founders. So what we are going to do, we are going to transfer some tokens from account 1 to account 2, right? So now the CEO is saying, okay, you are now also, we are both going to create this company. Therefore, I'm going to give you 30% of tokens. So what that means is I'm going to take this, go up here and call the transfer method, because remember there is a transfer and the transfer from. Transfer method can be called only by the owner of the tokens. Transfer from is called by the authorized representative. So we come over here and now we have to specify the to address. So let's copy this account to, paste it here, and the value. So let's say we are giving, how much did I say? 30%, let's say 40%, right? So that means we are giving 400,000, right? I think I have the right number of zeros, yes. And just for fun, let me put 4 million, right? And you will see that you will get an error. So you see there is an error because that means you are saying insufficient balance. So let me come up here and just reduce it to the right value, transact, and you see now this was successful. And if you come over here, you will see all this. That means we are giving, this is the event, we are giving from so and so address to so and so address, we are now giving so many tokens, right? So with this, let's collapse this, and now we can come up here and do our usual balance off. So if I now query account 1, you will see that the balance has changed. I now have only 600,000 tokens because I've given 400,000 tokens to the co-founder. And now if I query this, you will see now 400,000, right? So the account balance has changed once this transfer was completed. And in case you're wondering, just copy a random account like account number 3, and here we paste it and you will see it is 0, right? So therefore the account balance is still accurate. Only those two who hold tokens are actually getting non-zero numbers. So now that this is done, let's say these two, that is the co-founder and the CEO, they hire a lawyer. And they say this lawyer is now going to be our authorized representative. So this authorized representative is now going to go out, advertise our company, and try to bring investors, right? That's his job. And let's say this authorized representative is account number 3. So we are going to come up here, come down here rather, and we will look for the approve method. Because the approve method is what is used when you want to assign a particular allowance. Or rather you want to assign a particular authorized representative. So what I'm going to say, what this person will say is account 1 is going to assign, let's say 6 out of 600,000 tokens, he will assign 200,000 tokens. So account 1 is going to be copy account number 3 because that is our representative, and let's say 200,000 tokens. Come over here, transact, and it was successful. So if I come up here now and I will check, first let me check the balance off. So if I check the balance of account number 3, I will still get 0. The reason is this doesn't hold any tokens. This is an authorized representative. He has the right, he has been authorized to transfer tokens on behalf of account number 1, but he doesn't have any tokens yet. So if you want to query what is the authority this particular account has, you must use the allowance method. So if I come over here, copy again account number 3 and paste it. So I will paste it in the address of the spender, and account number 1 will be the owner, and I call it, and now you get 200,000. So this way you will see that now account number 3 is an authorized representative of account number 1, sorry. And now let's say for instance, I will use account number 2 and I will say this account number 2, which had 400,000 tokens, is going to give 150,000 tokens to the same authorized representative because he's the lawyer, he's the company lawyer. So both founders are giving tokens to this lawyer to go out and give it to other investors to bring them on board. That's what's going to happen. So With this, we come over here and we will say that, let's say account number 2, actually now that this is done, and we will say approve, and come down here, and in approve, account number 2 will still assign account number 3. So let me just copy this again in case I have done something else. And now instead of 200,000, I'm going to say 150,000 and transact. And now you can again check allowance, but this time you will see that the allowance is of account number 2. So let me copy this here, because now this authorized representative is representing 2 accounts, and for each account there is a different balance. So here if I call it again, you'll see it's 150,000 because this is what is been authorized by account number 2. Right? So this is how you can actually have authorized representatives to transfer on your behalf. So let's come over here and now do some transfer from. So if I say transfer from, and now account number 3, I have to do it as account number 3 because now the transfer from method is called by the authorized representative. So now I would say authorize this person, find somebody, let's say an investor. And let's go and take the last account. This is our investor. This person wants to put money into this company. So he's going to be the to address. And then there is a from address. So he says, I'm going to take tokens from account number 1 and transfer it to this investor. So let's come over here and copy this account number 1 address, right? So now the question is how much? Now this authorized representative has been authorized to transact up to 200,000 tokens. So if, for instance, I say 300,000, just for the sake of it, and I transact, you will see there is an error because this is insufficient balance. Account number 1 has 600,000 tokens, but he has only authorized this representative, account number 3, to transact up to 200,000 tokens. So therefore, it will create this check. So now this is done. Let's say that we are giving 30,000 tokens. Right? So 30,000 tokens are being transferred to this particular investor in exchange for money. So we will transact and you see it is now true. So we can verify this by going here and checking balance off. So if you come down here, in balance off, let us now copy this 13th address. And you will see it now has 30,000 tokens. Right? And in this same way, we can also come up here and check what is the new allowance, right? What is the allowance? So for example, actually we can check the balance of account number 1. So let's come all the way up here and check account number 1 because account number 3 has transferred tokens on behalf of account number 1. And you will see that now because of that, the number of tokens held by account number 1 has decreased by that same amount. That is, it is now 570,000. It was 600,000. It has decreased by 30,000. So 30,000 tokens has moved from account number 1 to 3. But it was not done by account number 1. It was done by account 3, who is the authorized representative. So now let's check out the allowance of account number 3. So if you come down here and let's delete this. Let us check that for this owner, account number 1, and for this authorized representative, which is account number 3, what is the allowance? And you will see this allowance has changed. It was first 200,000 because account number 1 had given 200,000 tokens to this authorized representative. Now that has decreased by 30,000 because now 30,000 has been transferred, right? So which means not only the balance of account number 1 decreases, the allowance of this authorized representative will also decrease with respect to that particular account. So with this, we are more or less done with the methods in this particular expression. Now, there are certain advanced functionalities such as how do you destroy tokens, that is how do you call the burn method. That unfortunately, I cannot talk about that here. Usually that is talked about in the process of voting. For example, let's say there is this particular corporation and it has a board of governors. And this board of governors has decided that a particular shareholder has violated terms and conditions. And the particular token holder, not shareholder, particular token holder has violated certain terms and conditions. And those, because of that, either all the tokens held by that account have to be destroyed or a portion of the tokens has to be destroyed. So let's say they say, for this violation, we are going to destroy 10% of your tokens. In that case, you can call the burn method with that thing. But then this is a process of voting. That means the board of governors has to vote, probably with some kind of 60% majority or something, because this is a serious event. And in that case, if the vote passes, then the burn method will be called, and then those tokens will be destroyed. But this is not something I can talk about now because we are not yet reached that stage where we can talk about voting and other things. In the next section, we'll talk about decentralized autonomous organizations, and that is where we will talk about this process of how you can vote, how you can create democratic organizations where people can vote, and those votes will result in operations which are executed. So I would advise you, go ahead, play around with this as much as you want, create your own token, transfer money, do whatever you want. The only other thing I can think of is we can create a receive method. So we can just create a receive method just so that it receives funds. And this of course is payable. So this is always a good practice whenever we create any kind of contract, because the contract should always be able to receive funds, right? So this is something we can always do, and I would recommend you to do the same as well. So go ahead, play around with it, move tokens from one person to the other, assign different kind of authorized representatives, see how the token balances change, so on and so forth. If any of this did not work for you, or you faced any other issues, please post in the Q&A forum and I'll be happy to help you. Otherwise, in the next lecture, we will continue with non-fungible tokens. Thank you so much for listening and see you soon. Goodbye for now.